I should have known my life was about to derail the moment the fertility clinic called me back a second time. Nothing good ever comes after someone says we need to talk. But I didn't expect the news to involve my DNA wandering around the world like some overconfident tourist. The call came on a slow Tuesday afternoon in North Carolina, when the sun was too bright and my bank account too empty. I was halfway through microwaving dollar store ravioli when Dr. Newman's voice came through, calm, professional, and way too cheerful for someone who was about to change my life. Ethan, there's been a development regarding your donation. My stomach dropped. I wasn't proud of it, but donating sperm had been the quickest way to pay the last chunk of my tuition. I was a broke psychology major with student debt breathing down my neck, and the clinic paid more than my weekend job at the grocery store. I figured it was harmless. Easy money. Private transaction. Except apparently it wasn't. When I walked into the clinic the next morning, the hallways smelled faintly like antiseptic and regret. I sat down opposite Dr. Newman, trying to look like someone who had his life together. I absolutely did not. He folded his hands on the desk. Ethan, someone wants to meet you. Not the child. The father. That was how Luca Hayes entered my world. Like a slow-moving storm I didn't see coming until it was too late. I first saw him through the clinic's frosted glass door. Tall, broad shoulders. The kind of guy who looked like he jogged for fun and remembered to drink enough water. He stepped into the room, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. His eyes were dark and steady, the kind that could make you confess to crimes you didn't commit. Ethan? He asked softly. His voice was low, warm, unexpectedly gentle. It didn't match the panic clenching my chest. I stood, nearly tripping over the chair leg. Yeah, that's me. He smiled then, and something traitorous inside me flickered to life. We shook hands. His grip was firm, grounding. I should have pulled away. Instead, I held on half a second too long. Dr. Newman began explaining the legalities, the boundaries, the reasons this meeting was even allowed. Something about emotional closure, about transparency for families who requested it. But the words were passing by me like a breeze. All I could feel was Luca's presence beside me, steady and warm, like sunlight through a window. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said once we were alone in the lobby. I just wanted to thank you. I blinked. Thank me? He nodded, looking down at his hands. My partner and I had been trying to build a family for years. We finally succeeded. Because of you. There was a softness in his voice that cracked something open in me. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly tight. I didn't think anyone would ever want to meet me, I admitted. Most donors stay anonymous. He lifted his gaze. Couldn't. Not after everything. Then he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I should have said no. Really. Absolutely. Saying yes was a terrible idea. A catastrophically messy, emotionally dangerous idea. Of course, I said yes anyway. The coffee shop was a small place tucked between a laundromat and a bakery that sold cookies the size of my face. Luca ordered an iced latte. I got black coffee because I was trying to look like I had my life together. Again, I did not. We sat by the window, where sunlight spilled across the table like melted honey. Tell me about yourself, he said. I laughed awkwardly. You mean besides the whole donor thing? He smiled, and it changed his entire face. Softer, brighter. It was almost unfair how easily he had that effect on me. Yes, besides that. So I told him about school, about scraping through life on minimum wage, about late-night study sessions and the fear of failing. He listened with that focused, attentive expression that made me feel seen in a way I hadn't expected. Then he told me his story. He had been with his partner, Michael, for 8 years before Michael passed away from a sudden heart condition. The baby they conceived together was born after his death. Luca was raising her alone now. I sat frozen, coffee forgotten, something heavy settling in my chest. I'm so sorry, I whispered. He nodded, his jaw tightening just slightly. Talking about it still hurts. But meeting you, it feels like connecting a missing piece of him. The words hit me hard, deep, like a quiet earthquake. I didn't mean to say it, but it slipped out anyway. Luca, I'm glad you found me. He looked at me then, really looked. His eyes warmed, softened, and for a moment the world shrank to the space between us. That was the first moment I realized I was in trouble. Because no matter how wrong it was, no matter how complicated, my heart had already begun its slow, reckless slide toward him. The trouble deepened the next week when he invited me to his house. I told myself it was innocent, just a chance to meet the baby, to give him the closure he said he wanted. But when I stepped into his living room, something warm and fragile unfurled in my chest. The house felt lived in, not staged. Soft blankets draped over the couch. Children's books stacked neatly but visibly used. A half-finished puzzle on the coffee table. Everything felt touched by love. And then he brought her out. "This is Lily," he said, voice gentler than I had ever heard it. "She's 13 months. She had dark curls, Michael's eyes, and a curious, fearless gaze. When she looked at me, something inside me cracked open in a way I couldn't understand. I wasn't her father, not in any real sense. But there was a thread there. A thread I hadn't anticipated. A thread that terrified me. "She liked you instantly," Luca murmured. I swallowed. "She's perfect." We spent the afternoon like a small, accidental family. Luca cooked pasta while I played peekaboo with Lily. She giggled every time I covered my face with my hands, and her laughter filled the house with a kind of light I hadn't felt in years. At one point, Luca paused in the kitchen, leaning on the counter, watching us. His expression was soft, unreadable, almost vulnerable. It made me look away before I drowned in it. After dinner, when Lily was asleep, we sat on the back porch. The sky above us had turned into a violet ocean, and fireflies drifted in slow circles around the yard. "Feels strange, doesn't it?" he said quietly. "How fast this has happened." I nodded. "It does." He exhaled, long and shaky. "I haven't let myself get close to anyone since Michael. I haven't even tried. And now, you're here. And I don't know what to do with that." My heart clenched painfully. "Luca, I'm not trying to replace him." "I know. You're not." He paused, then added softly, "Maybe that's why this scares me." We sat in silence, the night thick around us. I didn't know where the line was supposed to be, but my heart had already crossed it. I reached for his hand slowly, giving him every chance to pull away. He didn't. His fingers curled around mine, tentative but real. That single, quiet touch felt more intimate than any kiss I'd ever had. "Ethan," he said, barely above a whisper, "I don't want to hurt you." "You won't, unless you run." He let out a soft laugh that sounded a little like a sob. "I'm so tired of running." So we sat there, hands intertwined, the world shrinking to the small, warm space between our palms. But the world always finds a way in. The next morning, I showed up at the coffee shop near campus and found my roommate staring at an online forum on his laptop. My name was there. A post about sperm donors breaking anonymity. Accusations that I was chasing money. Or worse, chasing clout. My stomach twisted. Someone at the clinic must have talked. Or someone had seen Luca and me together. My phone buzzed. Luca calling. I answered with a tight breath. "Please tell me you're seeing this." "I am," he said, voice tense. "And I'm so sorry. I swear I didn't say anything." "I know. I trust you." But trust didn't stop the snowball. By noon, my academic advisor called me in. By evening, the clinic wanted an explanation. By the next day, Luca's doorstep was swarmed by neighbors whispering, questioning, prying. He tried to shield me. I tried to shield him. But the story had already taken on a life of its own. "We're gonna get through this," he insisted. I wanted to believe him, but guilt gnawed at me. He already lost one partner. He didn't need another catastrophe shaped like a person he barely knew. So I did the cowardly thing. I walked away. I stopped answering his calls. I kept my head down. I focused on exams. I told myself it was temporary, just until things calmed down. Just until the world forgot. But Luca didn't forget. 2 weeks passed before he showed up at my apartment. When I opened the door, he looked exhausted, hair messy, eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept. "Why did you disappear?" he asked, voice raw. I couldn't look at him. "I didn't want to hurt you." "You didn't. You hurt yourself. And you hurt me by leaving." His voice cracked on the last word. I felt my defenses crumble piece by stubborn piece. Luca, everything spiraled out of control. The rumors, the questions. I didn't want to make your life harder. You think my life gets harder because you're in it? He stepped closer. Ethan, you were the only thing holding me together these past weeks. The confession hit me like a punch to the chest. He took another step, close enough that I could feel the warmth of him. I don't need distance, he whispered. I need you. I broke then. Fully, quietly, completely. I stepped into him, and he wrapped his arms around me with a desperation that made my throat close. You should have told me sooner, I said into his shoulder. I'm telling you now. We stood in the doorway like that for a long time, clinging to each other like we were afraid the world might try to pry us apart again. Eventually he pulled back, cupping my face gently. Come home with us, please. Not him. I nodded, tears burning hot behind my eyes. The drive back to his house felt different this time. Not cautious, not uncertain, but full of an emerging quiet hope. When we walked into the living room, Lily squealed and reached for me like I belonged there. Luca laughed, the sound warm and bright, and it struck me that maybe I did. We sat on the floor playing with her blocks, Luca's shoulder brushing mine. The simple domesticity of it all wrapped around me like a soft blanket. Later, when Lily finally fell asleep, Luca leaned his head on my shoulder. Stay, he murmured. I looked at him, at the man who had carried heartbreak and still found room for me in the ruins. At the baby who didn't know anything except the warmth of the people around her. At the life I hadn't expected but now couldn't imagine walking away from. I whispered. His smile was small but radiant, like a sunrise breaking through cloud. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't need to. Some love stories announced themselves loudly. Ours arrived quietly, gently, like a door opening to a home I didn't know I'd been searching for. And for the first time in a long time, the future didn't terrify me. Felt like the beginning of something good, something real, something ours. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.